Okay, I'll kick off. Hello, I'd like to welcome everyone to today's webinar. I'm Sean Griffin, Bid Manager for Bracknell BID. And today, Bracknell BID are hosting a webinar with Activate Learning on the Kickstart Scheme. I'm joined today by Rebecca Iley, Head of Project Operations with Activate Learning, a gateway organisation for the Kickstart Scheme. Today, Rebecca will take you through the Kickstart Scheme and Activate Learning's offer. Before I hand off to Rebecca, if you have any questions, you may ask them in the Q&A facility, and Rebecca will try to answer them at the end of the webinar. This webinar is being recorded, so if you're watching this webinar back, contact details will be provided at the end for any questions that you may have. I will now hand off to Rebecca.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you for having me. I'll just share my screen with you. I've got a short presentation to share with you all. So let me just... Ooh. Sorry guys, this is not now going well. Let me just stop sharing that for a minute. Oh, Sean, all our best practices did not work out well, did they?
There's always that risk.
Right, let me, I've now got to my presentation back. Let me share again. Okay. Are we, can we see that, Sean?
Yeah, I can see that.
Lovely, thank you. Sorry for that false start. So our Kickstart scheme then, Activate Learning. So if I just give you a very brief overrun of the of what the Kickstart scheme is, hopefully by now it's had quite a lot of coverage, so you should be able to been able to see a little bit of it, but just to give you an overview. So the Kickstart scheme has been in direct response to COVID. It's to provide placements for 16 to 24-year-olds who are currently on universal credit and are at risk of long-term unemployment. So they should be claiming universal credit for sort of the last 3 months or so, and ideally they've been they're claiming universal credit because they've been made redundant or are not in work due to COVID. So placements are made available, and employers will take on those placements, and the scheme will cover 100% of the national minimum wage. It covers the national insurance scheme and any automatic enrolment contributions for pension. The placements are for 6 months and are for 25 hours a week with training on top of the 25 hours. On top of the recharge of salary and on costs are the setup costs for the young person, and we'll talk about those in a little bit more detail. But there is money there to support getting that person ready on site and also to help provide the training. The scheme will take us up to December 21. That's when you can make your last placement. So you could have someone with you with the Kickstart scheme until June 2022. So we've still got plenty of time on the programme. There's lots of availability. There has been rumblings as to whether or not those dates will be extended. We don't have any detail on that at the moment, but with furlough now extended till the end of September, it could look likely that the scheme will be pushed back a little bit further. So there's been lots of different types of amendments to the project. What was fantastic was a really quick response to the scheme, but there's always, with that comes there's normally a couple of adjustments that need to happen as we start to iron out some of those logistical areas. So originally, you had to be eligible to apply for yourselves, you had to have 30 placements. If you didn't have 30 placements, you could come through a gateway organisation such as ourselves, and we would pop you in a pot with other people and apply in one bulk load. That has since changed. You can now apply directly yourselves with as little as one placement. However, we are still seeing as a gateway that organisations are choosing to come through ourselves to do that, and that's for a number of reasons. As anything with DWP, the paperwork is tricky, so there's lots of it to do. That bit in itself, we're now well versed in and can support you with that. And there's also lots of hurdles to jump over to be eligible for the project. So again, we can support you with that, make sure you've got everything that you need. So what we've learned and what we know is if you are a new employer that you're unlikely to be successful, you need to have at least 1 year's accounting cycle and have those accounts to upload. So there's lots of little bits and bobs like that and sole traders aren't being successful at the moment either. So there's lots of bits there that we can support you with and talk you through. So the job placement criteria then, so what if you decide that you want to host some Kickstart placements, what you need to be able to do is offer a minimum of 25 hours a week for 6 months. The jobs that you create must be new and over and above the your standard workforce. So what you couldn't do is make somebody redundant and then take on a Kickstart placement in that scheme. So again, that's all part of when you're putting in your bids and your requests for the project, is really making sure we get that wording correct so that it is very obvious that the placement is over and above your normal workforce. With that placement, there is also the requirement for basic training, and that really comes in making sure that we are supporting our placements in the right way that we can. If you can't keep the placement at the end of the 6 months, and there is no obligation that you do, and that young person finishes and then goes off to find other work, what we are encouraging is that people are set up and they have good skills that they've trained for in your 6 months, that they have CV and interview skills that they've worked on, and that's something that we can support if you come through us as a Kickstart scheme, and I'll come on to that in a little bit more detail. But really it's about, at the end of that 6 months, if you're not able to retain them, that they should be in a better place to go and find long-term work elsewhere. So if you come through us as a gateway, then you can tap into all that training and support that we have. So we have a coach that will work with your placement. So they will do all of the mentoring and the support for that placement. There'll be a protocol, so they'll meet regularly, and there'll also be that communication link between yourselves and the placement if you need it. What we are encouraging is that students will come to us on a 1 day a week basis over their 6 months to complete their training, and this fulfills that basic training requirement. So you can see here on the slide the training that we're offering. So over the six months, there's 16 days worth of training. So that covers things like employability, digital skills, customer service, mental health awareness. The employability course will ensure that at the end of their placement, they've got their CV, their cover letter, they've done some interview skills, and they are ready to go on and find that next job. At the moment with COVID, all of these courses are online, so students can either do that with yourself in the workplace, so you could just set them some space if that's what you'd prefer, or they can do it from home, whatever works for you. If you're putting through a group of placements, so let's say you've got 10 and there's something on that list that you think, well, that doesn't really quite fit with our guys, but actually this course would, then please do have a conversation with us, and we can look to make those offers available if that's suitable. So at Activate Learning, although we are a gateway organisation, we've also had our own participants, and it's really important for us that we obviously support this project. So we've had 50 placements signed off that we'll be able to do over the term of the Kickstart project. We've got 18 onboarded at the moment, and we've got another 11 placements due to start in June, sorry, with the remainders in September. So we've learned a lot through doing this. So this again is really great to be able to share with you. If you come through us as a gateway, we can show you those successes and pitfalls and just make sure that we can support you in the right way. What we've done when we went out to the business, there were lots of jobs that came back that weren't quite right really for Kickstart. It's really important that if we're asking somebody to come in, it isn't just free labour, it's a meaningful position and it's a meaningful opportunity for those learners. So in the first round, we have got trainee administrators and assistant learning support assistants, which is like a teaching assistant type role in the classroom. They've come in, they've done a week's induction with us before going out into their respective workplaces within the organisation. That worked really well, and it was a really in-depth induction, which where they met Sally Dickett's, our CEO, they met people from HR, they met people from IT, we got them all sorted, so that when they went out to the organisation, they were really ready to go. Within that 18, we also put them into small groups so that they can support one another and buddy up. Obviously, if you're only going to be putting in 1 or 2 placements, it's just then thinking about that buddy or that mentor that they might be using within your organisation to support them. We have a work portfolio, which again, if you come through us as a gateway, we will share with you, and our coach will also share with the participants. So through their 6 month, they will build their portfolio, which will capture their one-to-ones with you, their mentor sessions, their discussions with their coach, and it will also capture all those qualifications they do in their certificates and a copy of their CV, so that again when they leave that placement, if they're not retained, they've got a really tangible portfolio to take forward with them. If we can't keep those people on, what we can do if you come through with us as a gateway is we can take that support at the end of the 6 month placement to help them find work. If you go through the scheme yourself and not through the gateway, that would be something that you would be asked to do and look at, which again is another pull on time. So our coach can support with that, which is again really helpful. So all of that, if you came through us as a gateway, all of the training and all of that support, I mentioned at the beginning that there was funding available. The funding is £1,500. We would keep £790 of that and would send the rest of it to you to support that placement on site. So that would be things like covering a computer or a laptop, or covering safety gear if they needed it, or a desk, whatever that might be. But that's yours to then support that young person, and then we do the rest for you. So as a gateway organisation, to date we've placed just over 200 placements actually, on behalf of 30 employers. Those are now live, and participants are actually enrolled in organisations. We're thrilled. The feedback of the calibre of the participant has been really high and has been really good, and we've actually seen within a couple of months there's already people that are transitioning those roles to full-time roles and keeping those people on, which is brilliant. We've had very similar experience at Activate. I'm having to hold off people in faculty at the moment of they've only been with us a few weeks. Let's just let them settle in before we start converting them to full-time roles. But the calibre has been fantastic. And something that I would really like to share with all of you actually is a case study. We had a young lady come to us for the teaching assistant role, and she interviewed awfully. She was terrible. We would never, in a normal interview, we would never have offered her the position. But when you're interviewing with a Kickstart head-on, it's about giving those opportunities. It's about giving that support and learning and advice to them, and giving them that 6 month opportunity. We we took her on. When we were interviewing her, she couldn't come up with any answers. We had to go back to some questions. She still couldn't come up with any suggestions. But what she could do, when you started talking to her about why she'd applied for the role, she had quite a bit of experience working with the type of learners that we were interested with her to work with. So learners with additional support needs. So we thought we'll go for it, we'll give her a chance. She's come in and the team are absolutely thrilled. They are trying to now promote her within the first 3 weeks to a study support coach. We're just holding them off at the minute. Let's just let her get her feet into the ground with her placement. But that is absolutely fantastic, and it's something that we will share with DWP as a case study. And I think just to be mindful if you do go through the scheme and you do go through those interview processes, just being mindful of the confidence of some of the participants is low. The experience that they may have had may not be extensive, but these placements are all about making sure that we can really support those young people to get the experience that they need. We've worked closely with the job centres. That worked really, really well. And again, as a gateway organisation, we can support you with that. So when we put up our job adverts, they go through the job centre. They have to be anybody that wants to apply for that job has to apply through their work coach at the job centre. That's the criteria. So what we did is we set up a couple of meetings with the job centre work coaches, really explained the types of roles that we were looking for and the people that we thought might be suitable for them, and that really helped the work coaches at the job centre to support with who to refer into those jobs. So again, that's something that we can support with, and just make sure we get that right. And I think that's it for me. I think that's everything I've got to share with you. There's always other bits and bobs that come out of it. So you can see there we've got an email and a phone number. So if there's any questions that you have outside of the webinar, please do get in contact with us. Or if you would like to arrange a short meeting to discuss the scheme in more detail or to find out whether you think it would be right for you, we'd love to hear from you. I think we had the opportunity for some Q&A. Do we have any questions, Sean?
Not yet. I'll just give a minute, Rebecca, to see if anyone
Yeah, of course.
in the Q&A facility. So that facility is just at the back of, or just at the bottom of your screen there. And of course, if anyone's watching this webinar back, you know, after the fact, you can use the information provided on the screen there. Contact Activate Learning and find out, answer your questions or find out any more information on the scheme. Okay, I don't think there's any questions. Thanks very much, Rebecca. That's the end of our webinar. I would like to thank Rebecca for joining us today. And if you'd like to know any more about Activate Learning and the Kickstart scheme, please use the contact information provided there on the bottom of the slide. If you'd like to know any more about the Bracknell BID and ways to get involved, you can visit our website at www.bracknellbid.co.uk, or Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Bracknell BID, or contact us by email inquiries@bracknellbid.co.uk. Thanks very much for joining us. That's the end of our webinar.
Thank you.